streaming. Okay, so
Okay.
so here we are with our, I think our fourth homegrown story. It's about, I just want everybody outside of North Dakota to know why I'm so committed to North Dakota. And one of the superstars that I've met along the way that has really helped me unlock my true roots is Sarah Vogel. So Sarah Vogel is here, and so I'm just going to let her tell her story. So Sarah, welcome, and let's talk about your NPL roots.
Okay. Well, I was born into the nonpartisan league. As I was told, this is family legend, that when I was born, I was given a lifetime subscription to the nonpartisan league leader and a membership card in the nonpartisan league. I do have one downstairs, but it's certainly not from my birth.
Okay, and what town were you actually born in?
I was born in Bismarck, but that was, I think, for convenience. But we lived in Garrison, North Dakota,
Okay.
McLean County,
Okay.
for the first 10 years of my life. Then we moved to Fargo. Then I moved to Mandan. Then I moved to Grand Forks. Then I moved out of state, and then I came back to Bismarck, and then I went to Grand Forks again, and then I came back to Bismarck. So when I would campaign, of course, I had about 6 hometowns.
All right, perfect. So yeah, well, in general, North Dakota is one big town with long roads. So
Yes, it
yeah.
is. Yeah.
So you said you were born into the nonpartisan league. So tell us about your family's connection with that. So who was your first non-leaguer or nonpartisan leaguer?
That would have been my grandfather, Frank Vogel.
Okay.
He came from Minnesota, and he was a teacher here, and then he moved to McLean County. He became there was a farmer-owned bank at the time, and he became a cashier after being a school teacher and ran for the legislature. So he was in the legislature in, I think, 24, 26, 28.
Okay.
And was the floor leader for that nonpartisan league in some of those years. And then his career after that was very strongly connected to then Governor and then later Senator William Langer.
All right.
So we grew up as, the nonpartisan league was a religion, and Langer was a big part of that religion.
Okay. And what does the nonpartisan league mean to you? It's your religion, it's who you are, but like in one or two sentences, what's the value?
I think the nonpartisan league it always started with the impact of government programs and so on people.
Right.
And so it had that was the origin. In those days, of course, North Dakota was then and still is a very agricultural state, small business. So I think the focus of the league was on farmers, small business, and Native Americans too.
All right. Yep.
Because Native Americans got they've received some had received the right to vote prior to, I think it was 26, but in general they became U.S. citizens. Is that weird?
Yeah, it is. But and your family and the NPL was a big part of that. But so, like you said, you were born into the nonpartisan league. But you also had this major accomplishment, and you became the North Dakota Agriculture Commission.
Yeah.
In a tough race. And can you tell us a little bit about that? Because you were talking about your campaign and.
Yeah. Well, I went to law school in New York City, and I worked on the East Coast mostly in consumer protection for about a decade.
Okay.
I came back to North Dakota, and I had one of the things I started to do was first I worked with one farmer and then more, and at that point there was a huge crackdown by the federal government on farm loans, and so I just got, it was like it was the biggest deal I've ever done, I think, in my life. But
Yeah.
I eventually realized that I needed to file a lawsuit to stop foreclosures because farmers' constitutional rights were being disregarded. The federal agency involved, then called the Farmers Home Administration, wasn't following federal law. And so I filed a state class action. And then
This was in the 80s? Was this in
that
the
was in '83. And then
time
it
crisis?
was turned into a national class action later that year. And then from there, so that was a big deal. And then after that, I went and became an assistant attorney general. And I worked mostly on farm crisis issues. The state, as it should be, was on the side of the people who are suffering. And sort of that was my role at the AG's office, is to work on behalf of farmers. And so I think I been there for a couple of years, and I realized that the Attorney General's office was doing a lot more, I felt, for and on behalf of farmers than was the Ag Department. And they were doing a lot of good things, don't get me wrong, but I thought they could do more because of the crisis, which was continuing. And so I decided that I should run for Commissioner of Agriculture, and then I could do it. And I also wanted to be on the Industrial Commission, because the Industrial Commission had control of the bank in North Dakota. And my grandfather, by the way, Frank Vogel, had become he had become manager. Back then it was manager. Now it's president, but back then he was the manager of the bank in North Dakota through many of the years in the Great Depression, with when Langer was governor. And thereafter. And then the Bank of North Dakota would work and do everything that it could do to help farmers survive. And one of the things they did was, any farmer that ever lost their land through foreclosure, they would offer that land back to the farmer. And they would rent, if for fiscal reasons, I suppose. Banks would still, they were foreclosing, but the Bank of North Dakota offered to rent the land back to the farmer with an option to buy it back when they could afford to do so. And they pretty much all did. And so the Bank of North Dakota had renters who kept up the farms and the fences, and then when World War II came and the prices got better, they almost all bought their farms back. So I really saw the Bank of North Dakota as a tremendous tool for helping struggling farmers and small businesses. And I thought if I were Ag Commissioner, I could have a role in that. So I did.
And so you ran. And how'd you win? Like, you're the first woman, I think the only woman Ag Commissioner in North Dakota.
As far as I know, in U.S. history.
In U.S. history. Okay, that's even better.
In many states, they don't elect Ag Commissioners, and I had heard that a couple people who are like kind of a governor candidate, cabinet person, had been acting commissioners of agriculture in some two East Coast states, but nobody had ever been elected as Commissioner of Agriculture. So, and I was the first woman on the Industrial Commission too.
Also.
Yeah.
So how do you think?
So running was very, very intense. And I was really careful that, for example, if a press person called me, and this is before the days of cell phones, if a press person called me, I would never talk to them. I'd go down and get a phone booth on the main floor because I didn't want anyone saying that I was using state property for campaigning.
Oh,
Which
wow.
I think is good practice.
Yeah.
So, and we had 13 debates, I think,
Wow.
during that. And everybody all the candidates worked very hard. There were 4 candidates that year.
Oh, wow.
The Republicans had endorsed a candidate. The current Commissioner of Agriculture had not been endorsed, but he ran as an independent. And then there was another candidate who ran on his own political party, which I think was called the $17.11 a bushel wheat party, which
Oh, wow. I have to look at it.
sounded awfully good.
Yeah.
So we had debate after debate after debate, and it worked hard. But I think my themes were always fighting for the farmers, fighting for small business, trying to having the state be on the side of people who were having a hard time.
Yeah.
And it worked. So
there you go. There you go. And now the rest is history. But now when I visited with you, we really hit it off because you are a book reader, and that's my language. And I think I went home with 20 of your books to read. But yeah, I'm reading them. I'm taking notes. And but you are writing a book right now.
Yes.
After all this, you are writing a book. So tell us more about that.
The book I'm writing, is going to be called The Farmer's Lawyer, which is
I love it.
Working title. It conceivably might change. But it's basically about that Coleman versus Block case that I did in the early 80s. And I had been thinking about it for a long time, and then several years ago, I thought, well, nobody else is writing that book. Somebody should write the book, and so I decided that I would write the book. And it isn't easy, in part because I don't know if you've ever heard of legal writing style, where everything has to have a footnote. And that doesn't make for a real fun read. So I had to wring that out of myself. But the impetus for the book is not so much to tell the story of that case as it is to convey that it is possible for individual people, and whether there be their clients or lawyers or public policy members in public policy, to make a change for the better, and that government is here to serve people and in a fair way, and the Constitution has to be followed. The case that I brought was a constitutional case. It was due process, that farmers' farms were being taken away from them by the federal government without the federal government following due process of law. So, but the impetus for writing the book is that I felt years ago that there was another farm crisis coming.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's been more and more evident. I think people who lived through the 80s that saw it first, but it's more and more evident. And now, whoa, with this coronavirus, I cannot believe how fast, now it's 2 crises working at the same time. And I saw a headline the other day where a government economist. And by the way, economists have worse writing styles than lawyers do. And, but when an economist starts to say stuff like, there's going to be a bloodbath, that is really scary. So
Yeah.
I really think that now in this political campaign, it should be all hands on deck.
Right.
To help farmers, all hands on deck to help small businesses, small towns,
Yep.
So that at the end of the day, we're not saddled with monster corporate entities.
100%.
And North Dakota's got such a great history with, the anti-corporate farm law, which was an initiated measure, by the way.
Oh, is that right?
Oh yeah, it was. They brought the anti-corporate farming. The league had brought the anti-corporate farming law to the
And
legislature.
another leaguer thing.
Yeah. And
fighting for the farmer.
and there was also another group called the Farm Holiday Association, which was pretty
Okay.
amazing too. But anyway, the legislature hadn't done anything, so it was passed as an initiated measure, the anti-corporate farming law. It's been amended multiple times over the years, but it's still there, and I think it's extremely important.
Yeah. No, we need to guard that at all costs, because people keep trying to chip away at it.
Yes, they do.
Little
Yeah,
by little, but we will protect it. That's what keeps North Dakota in the hands of North Dakotans.
Right.
So when might that book come out? I know you're working like crazy on it, and it's hard, but like in a year? Or
by knock on wood, it would be great if I could get it out in 2021. But I'm about 2/3 of the way through the draft. I've done a proposal. I've got a publisher. It's hard work.
Yeah. No.
But the league is just amazing. Like these league leaders back in the day were amazing. Usher Verdict, Fraser, Lemke. And the one I'm reading about just today was Bill Lemke, who was in the House of Representatives for a long time. He was one of the co-authors of the Fraser-Lemke Farm Bankruptcy Act back in '33 that saved thousands and thousands and thousands of farmers throughout the nation. It was, a big deal.
Yeah.
And it was a model for Chapter 12.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, Lemke served in the legislature for a long time. And I'm just reading about how toward the end of his life, he was a fervent advocate for Native Americans, which, because they were trying to terminate tribes and then flood, the way the flooding was happening up at Fort Berthold, which just knocked that reservation. They lost 90% of their land and farmable land.
Oh, wow.
And they had to move up onto the highlands. And it was just a terrible episode.
So, and that was a natural flood, or is it from building?
No, it was Garrison Dam.
Oh, the Garrison Dam. Okay, yeah. Building the lake.
The creation of Lake Sakakawea.
Okay.
But the strongest ally for the tribes was Bill Lemke, who was saying that if they're going to lose all that land, I mean, he didn't think it needed to happen, but that they should have been paid fairly for what they lost, and they weren't. But they remembered Bill Lemke. They wrote that he was the best friend of the Indians.
Yeah.
it's pretty terrific, and I don't know that a lot of people know about stuff like that. So this is going to be fun for me to write about.
Yeah.
And put in these little tidbits of history, because I think the NPL influence is really important
Right.
in North Dakota.
And it's been so solid. It's a consistently solid supporting farmers, Native American, small business people, the people of North Dakota. And that's what makes it such a unique, well, we're the only pro North Dakota party there is. So I'm proud to be a part of it.
and the state mill, people shouldn't forget about the state mill either, because like that's having its 100th anniversary. Well, it was incorporated, but of course they had to build a mill. You know, the bank could get going faster. They just had their 100th anniversary.
Right.
But the mill is going to celebrate its 100th year of production soon. And the North Dakota State Mill and Elevator is the largest mill in North America and South America.
Oh, really?
And yes.
I didn't even realize.
And super high quality stuff. It's like a gem. I love the mill, and there's so much too, like workers' comp. That came out of the nonpartisan league.
Is that right?
Yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna.
Okay. But with that mill, no, but with that mill, you did change their business model a little bit. Can you tell us about that with the 100 bags of flour? Because that was your insight from visiting.
It was so much fun when I was out campaigning and running for Commissioner of Agriculture. I would go different places, and then I would meet with people, and I said, what would you like me to do when I'm Commissioner of Agriculture? And quite a number of ladies came up to me and they said, our kids are grown, we love to bake, but we don't want to have to buy like a 50-pound bag of flour or a 100-pound bag of flour, because back then that's the size of flour bags the mill was selling.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we want a 10-pound bag. And I said, I'll do that. So I had that as one of my campaign platforms to bring back the 10-pound bag, and we did. I have a plaque somewhere, and I think downstairs that says from the state mill, you know, thank you for bringing back the 10-pound bag. But that was just really remarkable, and that you can buy that 10-pound bag now easily in stores, and pancake mixes and all kinds of organic, you know, the mill is great.
Yeah, no,
and they give tours. So tell people if they're up in Grand Forks, they can ask for a tour, because it belongs to the people of the state.
It does, and we will go up there. And I didn't know that. I mean, I didn't know that. Nope, we're going to do that.
Good.
It's such a good part.
It's amazing.
It's
good idea.
So deep into my. I'm falling in love more and more with North Dakota every day. So, okay, we are. 2 more questions, because I mean, I've only touched on a slice of your amazing life, but you are also a triathlete, right?
Yeah.
So where did you do your first triathlon?
I was 50.
50.
50. And back then, North Dakota, this is something I'd like to see you bring back.
Okay.
Is the Prairie Rose State Games. That was sort of started by Governor Sinner, and somewhere along the line, it stopped, but it was like a state-sponsored, it ended up being more volunteer run, and it was always many, many volunteers, bless their hearts.
Yeah.
But they were like state games, and they had bike races and swimming and ball games and basketball. It was like just a hoot. They did it for many, many years. And I think one of the very earliest, I was down in the mall and I ran into Heidi, who was like 10 years younger than me, different age category. And
Heidi Heitkamp?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And she said, you should sign up for a triathlon, because I had a bike and I could swim, and I didn't run, but I could walk. And I looked at the registration, and I was the only 50 plus year old person. So I
Very
thought, I'll try it. And that was my first one. And I got a gold. So then I was off to the races, so to speak. And
okay.
I qualified this year to, I think it's.
Oh, you're still running them? You're still running?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I did a couple last year and several, I think. Most years I've done several. And I always, you know,
Place.
but I started going out of state because I wanted to run with women my age that were, you know, because you could be dead last and get a gold.
Right.
So I started going out of state, and I qualified this year to go to the national senior age group triathlon.
Perfect.
I think they may cancel, and I
Maybe
may
they'll
be
do it
last
virtually.
too,
Maybe they'll
but
do
it keeps you going, and biking in North Dakota and swimming and running. It's like we have got nice, good air and good roads for biking, and
Yes.
it's fun.
Yeah, yeah. No,
I'm not fast. I mean, nobody.
That's
You know,
okay.
I've had walkers zoom by me. But
you're still
fun.
finishing and you're still getting the gold.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. So what is your favorite thing about North Dakota?
Oh, I'd say it's the sense of unity, the sense of family, that we're like kind of related because we all live here. And you know, I lived out of state for 10 years, and it was always such a treat to meet North Dakotans, and you'd always know someone in common. And so I think that the other thing about North Dakota, I think, is that we're sufficiently small that just normal people can have a relationship with the elected officials, whether they be legislators, mayors, city council. And North Dakotans love government. I mean, we have a ton of layers of government. So I think we're a really good example of democracy in action if we treasure it.
Yes.
Yep. If we treasure it, and we should.
Yeah. Yep. And with that, I couldn't agree more with you. And you've been a trailblazer for this whole, you and your family has kept that we're going to keep that fire burning. We're going to lift up that MPL because that's pro North Dakota. So
yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. And we will be visiting with you again soon.
Okay. All right. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.